All right, hello there, and welcome back to another episode of the Cantina Club's Outer Rim. We're going to be discussing Season 2, Episode 2 of Star Trek Discovery, and come right back after this, and you'll know what's what.
Singing yup no,
Yup, yup.
you're singing yup no,
Cha-cha.
And then music.
yup no,
No.
at the Cantina Club.
Okay. All right, welcome into another edition of the Outer Rim, where we're going to talk about New Eden. This is the second episode of Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery. And I'm going to start out by giving a little bit of a somewhat brief synopsis of what happened on this episode. So we start out with an opening scene between Michael Burnham and Christopher Pike, where Burnham learns that, well, first of all, Burnham misses the chance to describe the Red Angel that she saw when she was trapped on the asteroid last episode, and instead just thanks him for saving her. Then in the course of the same conversation, she learns that Spock has checked himself into basically a mental facility, and basically requested that none of his family members be allowed to know that. So so that was kind of the opening scene. For this from this point, they get another distress call, seemingly from one of the red, as they're calling them, red bursts, from a planet called Terralicia. And they call it it's surprisingly Earth-like. It's typical M4, Star Trek M4 planet. It's on the other side of the galaxy. I thought there was an interesting point here, where it basically would have taken them at normal warp speed. It would take them 150 years to get there, but of course they use the spore drive and they're there instantaneously. When they get there, they realize there is a human population that's been unknowingly sending the same distress signal for a period of 200 years. The group of Federation crew members that goes to the planet's surface is Burnham, Pike, and Lieutenant Owosakun. She's I don't know, she's not she normally sits up at the helm on the bridge, so it's kind of interesting to get a little bit more of an idea of what this character's like. So she finally gets to leave this bridge, but she sadly is still in search of some character development. Okay, the Discovery travels to the planet as part of their ongoing mission to figure out what the heck the red signals mean. Upon reaching Terralicia and chatting with some of the planet's citizens under the guise of being visitors from one of the settlements to the north, they learn that the people there were brought to the planet seemingly by one of the red signals, that they saw the same angelic outline that Michael did on the asteroid. So it's the first time that we've really cared about the mystery of the red burst. The mysterious signal transported the human ancestors of these people who now live on Terralicia from the ashes of Earth's World War III to the other side of the galaxy. This happened more than 200 years ago. This broadens the mystery of the red signals not only across massive amounts of space, but across centuries of time. And apparently Spock has been seeing visions of these red bursts since he was a kid, but that's nothing compared to centuries, of course. The away mission to Terralicia is an opportunity for Discovery to explore one of the richest thematic dilemmas, the Prime Directive, known here as General Order 1, a non-interference directive that states that members of the Federation cannot interfere with the normal development of any pre-warp civilization, and throughout the history of Star Trek canon, this has been used by the plot in various ways. It often puts characters against one another and asks semi-explored questions about the Federation as a colonial force. Here we see Michael on the opposite side from Pike. She sympathizes with Jacob, the scientist character on the planet, because he immediately suspects that the Way Party is from Earth, and that would mean that Earth wasn't destroyed in World War III, as everybody on this planet suspects. Michael wants to tell Jacob the truth, but Pike refuses. Even though these people are humans, they left Earth before warp was invented, which means that they are technically pre-warp. Jacob begs for them to tell him the truth, but they do not even Burnham. The away team returns to Discovery to help an injured Pike, who's no closer to discovering the truth of the red signal. That is until Pike and Burnham have a heart-to-heart. Michael convinces Christopher Pike to make an exchange with Jacob, the truth, and a battery for a camera that recorded the moment the Terralesians' ancestors were rescued from Earth. It doesn't give us much to go on, only showing that the ancestors saw an angel-like vision before the entire church they were in was transported to another planet. So while the away team is on the surface, the Discovery, under the command of Saru, is working to save the planet below from an apocalyptic event. They use their combined know-how with a particularly helpful plan from Tilly to save the day. Along with the away mission, this kind of collaborative teamwork that was mostly missing from the first season, especially on the bridge, felt very Star Trek-y. In general, Saru was the kind of Federation captain Jean-Luc Picard would be proud of. When Tilly injures herself taking a sample from the dark matter currently floating in one of the Discovery's bays, Saru gives her a talking to. Before we care for others, we must care for ourselves, he tells her. You're important. It was easily one of the best moments of the episode and so far the show. Petition to give Saru so much more screen time on the show. And what I'm reading right now is actually, obviously an opinion piece
right. I
by
wasn't
me.
thinking
So it's
that
not
was your
necessarily
opinion exactly.
not necessarily my opinion that I'm reading here. Okay, so Saru wasn't the only person on Discovery trying to remind Tilly of her immense worth. In New Eden, we meet someone who's seemingly a new crew member, but quickly is revealed to be someone else entirely, taking the form of one of Tilly's childhood friends who is apparently deceased. This being spends the episode supporting Tilly and telling her just how smart she is. She's a delightful imaginary friend, according to this person, the one that seemingly no one else can see. Is she dark matter? Is she the dark matter interface Tilly was hoping to find for Stamets? Perhaps. While New Eden, this episode wasn't without its clunky exposition, it was according to this, a delightfully traditional trek that progressed this episode's major storylines in some fascinating ways. All right, so that's basically that's the gist of it. So that's basically where we are. So I would say, as far as my own interpretation of the episode overall, my gut feeling is I liked it. Mm-hmm. I didn't like it as much as episode 1.
You didn't like it as much as episode 1?
I did not, no. Okay. Episode 1, if I were giving it a number, if I was rating it 1 to 10, episode 1, I would probably give it about a 7.5 or an 8. This one I'd probably give it around a 6.5 or a 7.
Okay.
So it's still on the plus side, but just not what I had hoped for. I do like the fact that it was a little bit more episodic in nature, like traditional Star Trek, and yet they still are managing to keep the main story going forward. I think last season I think it suffered a little bit too much from all 14 episodes is one long story and we don't really get any episodic elements to it. This time we got that. So again, my overall impression is there were definitely a few problems with it, but overall I still enjoyed the story, and I still can't say enough about Anson Mount as Christopher Pike. I think he's absolutely stealing the show right now, and if it weren't for him, I'd almost be worried as to what I'd be thinking right now, to be honest with you.
That's honest, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think, Greedo?
Well, as soon as the episode was over, I try not to. I leave my overthinking for when we're talking about this stuff. I don't overthink it when I'm watching it, believe it or not. So as soon as the episode was over and it hit the coming up on Discovery part, I was so much more excited than I was after the first episode. Something about this episode really appealed to me. As in, I almost want to say I loved it. Like if this was the first episode you ever showed me of Discovery, I would be completely hooked and on board. And seeing those scenes for what's coming up, it's the first time, I don't know what the difference is, but they showed the same thing practically after the first episode, what's coming up this season, and it didn't excite me at all. But now they're showing more, implying things about Georgiou coming back, and I forget the name of the Federation Klingon hybrid guy, but that stuff looked intriguing to me.
Ash.
And it looked like there was going to be more variation, I think, than what we got in the first season. The first season really felt overwhelmingly like the Michael Burnham show, just all the time. There were very few episodes that ever left her out. They wouldn't develop any stories without her. And when they show these scenes coming forward that are now going to diverge into other characters and stuff, that's kind of what I want to see. And anyway, this episode, though, she was a counterpoint through the whole episode, but she wasn't the main driving force. And I think this episode was about defining the differences between her and Pike. And so we were allowed to choose our side instead of being preached at about who was right. Usually Burnham's point of view is absolutely right, and she's going to be proven right by the end of the episode, and all the people that stand against her are wrong, and they usually end up being bad guys or whatever. That's kind of the way the show, in my opinion, has been written in the past. But with Pike, we got a perfectly reasonable point of view that is felt very Starfleet to me. Like I said, and like you said, he really sold it to me. The fact that he jumped on that phaser without hesitation shows me that he is a good guy. I was having my reservations after the first episode, feeling that maybe they were showing some flags that he was going to have a secret. I'm still not super into this who's the Red Angel or what is the Red Angel. I think it's obvious it's going to be someone in the cast, and this is going to be another time travel scenario. Because I just think that's what's going to happen. It is definitely going to be someone from the cast is going to end up being this Red Angel character, and we're going to see all the events of these different bursts happen from their point of view by the end. That's my opinion, but so I'm not that intrigued by that mystery because I just don't know. I'm not all that into some of these side characters and stuff, but I just loved the episode. It's been done and done and done about every space show that they have this conflict where they're disturbing this culture and religion and science and but I just thought the scene at the end where the church was lit up by technology, by the influence of technology, was just beautiful.
No, it really was.
If I just dismiss my cynicism for a minute and the fact that I've seen this before 1,000 times and that they probably stole it from somewhere, that's my my kind of overthinking side talking. But when I was watching it, I just loved that imagery of the technological devotee, the gentleman who just wanted the truth, is the one who lights the beacon of the church at the end that brings kind of hope back to everyone.
Right.
The subplot of the cataclysmic event, like I said, done to death. It's just constantly done, and I didn't have a whole lot. I mean, it was okay. I wouldn't share the enthusiasm of the person who wrote the summary you read on that.
No,
but it was okay. It was okay. It was I wonder what this whole dark matter and asteroid. It just seems like a subplot where they can write in anything they want. Like the dark matter is unobtainium, and who knows what properties it has. I do think the childhood friend is somehow linked to the Red Angel. There's a force on board the ship that is going to be showing up at these different locations to guide them in what to do, and it's probably going to manifest to different crew members, I would hope, and not just Tilly. I hope it's not just a Tilly subplot. I hope it helps us explore the other crew members as well. And kind of this force I think is probably judging them. These are like a series of tests, and it's like the Q or something like that, from Next Generation. But anyway, every scene with Pike in it I loved. His delivery was awesome, the way he commanded the crew and the way he respected the beliefs of this culture and everything with no question. I mean, he was not going to allow any questioning on that. And the others, Burnham for once followed her commander's orders, so that was good. But anyway, as long as Pike is on there, and I'm on board, I think. And I really did love this episode. Only thing I could find to criticize about it is Burnham a little bit. Is still a little bit of an aggravating character for me, and that's about it. I mean, the other stuff I can overlook. The silliness of the crew. This just seems to be a thing that's a permanent fixture. They're going to be silly, and we just have to deal with it. So, but yeah, I loved it. Okay. I'm really surprised. I was
excellent.
I'm very much on board now, and I had a different reaction than you. The first episode did almost nothing for me. I would give it like a 5, and this one I would give a 7.5 or something.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting that because it's pretty rare. I tend to be more forgiving of a lot of these shows, I think, than you are, and I tend to like most of this stuff better than you. And it's weird that and you know, obviously I don't want to say I didn't like it. I did, you know. It's just I didn't like it as much as I liked episode one. So it's definitely would be wrong to say I didn't like this episode.
Yeah, there's some episodes where they go down to a planet and you're instantly bored, and it kind of takes you out of it. And maybe you kind of saw it in that light where you weren't as intrigued by the culture they ran into and all that. And I don't know that I was necessarily either, but I thought all the actors were good. Playing the people in this culture, they didn't go down the cliched path of them being hostile or being hostile to their beliefs being threatened and stuff like that. It was more of just a discussion, you know, between everybody, and they were very welcoming. The part that felt more cliched to me was this whole disaster looming down on them, and the you know, the away team being cut off, and the crew is up against a clock to save this culture. Whereas I don't really truly understand the Prime Directive, but from what I understand, they shouldn't have interfered there.
Right.
Unless they could prove that was an unnatural event. That wouldn't have, like, if they arrived and caused it to happen when they arrived, then they would have to fix it. But the fact that some space debris or radiation was going to rain down on the planet, isn't that natural?
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the question. It's like, are they allowed to interfere in situations like that?
They skipped right over that and just said, we're not allowing this to happen on our watch or whatever. Well, doesn't that violate General Order 1? So...
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately that's the point of these Red Angels, is that they're taking them to places and showing them a situation where they need to intervene to save something or someone, you know. And that's, but that still doesn't obviously answer the question of, is that a violation of the Prime Directive, or in this case,
well, it was kind of like a subplot and a plot that were at odds with each other. And it's like this crew hasn't had a meeting to decide what General Order 1 actually means, whereas on most other Star Trek, they seem to know. You know, they would know there's a disaster looming, but we can't warn people because it would violate, we can't do anything about it. But when you get, from what I understand in the past, when you get a direct cry for help, then you can intervene. Or if it's something that's unnatural that the Federation caused, or something like that, then you can intervene and help people. But if it's part of the planet they're on and it's just going to decay and fall on them, I felt like, you know, that was a little dicey to me when the whole crux to the rest of the episode was, do we violate General Order or not? And they just violated it without any thought whatsoever for the subplot.
Exactly.
That struck me as at odds and just poor writing. But I tried to, like I said, I'm overthinking it now. In the moment, I just accepted, you know, we got to give the crew a subplot to do something. There has to be a looming disaster, you know, for some tension or whatever. I'm still not on Team Tilly, but she definitely annoyed me a lot less, because she was doing something, and she wasn't just trying to engage in her horrible conversations, you know, for no reason, and getting involved in people's business like she does a lot.
Right.
I wanted to also mention, I apologize, I have a cold, but that I read somewhere, and I'd forgotten about this because it was just an aside in the first season, that Tilly may have autism. Have you heard of this?
I don't recall that, if I have. No.
There's a scene when she first meets Burnham where she says, due to my special needs, I'm not usually with a roommate, or something like that.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
They, as far as I know, they never really refer back to it again, but a lot of people speculate or recognize that she's autistic or something. I don't know. I don't know much about autism. She doesn't strike me. I would be talking out of ignorance, you know, so I probably shouldn't.
Yeah, same here. I'm not really sure.
I don't think they've consistently portrayed that, but I want to make it clear that when I criticize her, I am in no way criticizing people with autism or anything like that.
No, of course.
It's a portrayal of a character that just grates on my nerves, and it's obviously done on purpose. You're supposed to find it endearing, and some people probably find it endearing, and some people find it annoying, and I'm one of the ones that find it annoying. But in the first season, I didn't have as much of a problem with her as I did in that first episode of this season.
Yeah, I don't. I obviously have less of a problem with her character than you do.
Yeah.
And this episode, you know, I didn't have a problem. I thought it was pretty funny. I enjoyed, in particular, the moment when she was all excited and leaving the sick bay and went to the left. And then after a couple of seconds, you see her going to the right. I thought that was actually pretty. That was a pretty good gag. I enjoyed that. I thought that was pretty well done.
And we're just on opposite ends of the spectrum again, because that's another case of the of the humor not fitting to me.
Really see that
didn't
to me
work
that
for
was
me.
pretty funny. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I also was really wondering, like, what is wrong with this other crewman? You know, I really thought they were introducing a girl-on-girl, relationship there, because the way
I did
she
too
was
for a minute.
just seemed to
Honestly,
be
I did
worshiping
too.
the Tilly character.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing.
But I don't understand why no one else noticed it. You know, it's like you're living on this ship and you don't notice. They never notice until it's convenient. But she was behaving very oddly, this other crewman, and I was like,
Very
what's
strange.
going on there? You know.
Yeah, and I must admit I did find that character intensely annoying.
Right.
And I'm pretty happy that that's I'm assuming not going to be a recurring character.
Yeah. Well, look, we're both a certain demographic that is not going to appeal to, right? So they're shooting for a different audience there, so it's hard for us to judge. All we can say is it doesn't appeal to us, and no big surprise. I don't think it's like it reminds me of going to see Space Hunter or whatever in the theater. And Molly Ringwald's character shows up. You remember that? The most annoying character of all time in a movie, and we were not the target audience for that then either.
No.
But I don't know who the target was for that. That was just a disaster. But that's always what I think back to, like my first kind of Jar Jar moment at the theater is that character, and then when these characters show up in the shows, it's like a flashback to this. Why do they feel the need to put an annoying character in there? I don't get it, but I don't blame the actors ever.
No, I mean, they're only portraying what they're being told,
exactly.
by the script and by the director. And since we're on that subject, by the way, did you notice that this was directed by Jonathan Frakes?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Which of course, by no means is this his first. He's directed tons of episodes, even as far back as I believe he directed maybe some late TNG. And I know he had Deep Space Nine, Voyager, etc. But
I think he's also directed some some of the Orville episodes.
Oh, interesting.
Crazy.
Okay.
I know
which I have not
a lot
watched
of
at
Next
all.
Generation have had involvement.
Okay. Oh, nice. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and he directed the Thunderbirds movie, which nobody saw and got panned. But he's directed some stuff, I think, for Disney and for different things like that.
Right. Okay.
I thought the direction was very competent. There's camera motions and editing that's a style choice for this show that you either like or you don't like. And I'm on the fence about a lot of it, but most of the time I'm okay with it. So I've heard people complain, that the camera moves too much and they try to be dynamic a little too hard. I don't know. Unless it pulls me out of the moment, it doesn't really bother me. The humor, the kind of weird, awkward humor just injected in there, bothers me more than camera movements and stuff. I will say my least favorite moment of the episode probably was when Burnham corrected Tilly. I don't know if you noticed that. When Burnham came up with the brilliant solution for figuring out where the red burst was. And it's just because they can't seem to do anything without reminding us that Burnham is the best. Out of everyone. She's never wrong. And that scene took me out of it for a second because it's like, why do they have to have that in there? It would have been a perfect episode if they had left that out, because I'd much prefer seeing her as a crewman, and in a good organic place in the story. She's already the centerpiece. We have to accept that she's Spock's foster, sister. So why do you continually have to keep reminding us how phenomenal she is at everything? It's like, I don't know. This is a flaw we should be over by now in storytelling at this point. We don't need perfect heroes anymore.
It's a
It's
little
too
too
than anything else.
a little too Burnham centric for you.
Yes, it still is. Yeah, but what I liked about this episode is there was only one moment that took me out of it, where she kind of took charge and said, "No, you're doing it wrong. If you do it this way, it'll be perfect." And everybody was like, "Oh yeah, she's so brilliant," and and it worked out. But then after that, when she's debating with Pike, this is what Star Trek to me I go back to, is when the main characters are debating something. And they have a strong point of view and a strong characterization. I always think back to episodes like the Space Amoeba, where McCoy and Spock are arguing the first half of the episode who's going to go on this dangerous probable suicide mission. And Kirk has to decide between their 2 points of view which one is more qualified to go. And that's how you develop characters and get us interested and not have a billion-dollar budget. You know, you have actual dialogue and moments.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I like it when the characters begin debating each other like they did in this episode. I think that's what drew me in, was that Pike was allowed to have a different point of view than Burnham. The third character was allowed a little bit in there. She just, you know, kind of mentioned it would have been more interesting if she'd gotten involved, but because she seemed like a cool character. But again, they kind of shorted that one.
Yeah.
And I still don't really understand. Do you understand, like, that asteroid, okay, that's on the hangar deck or whatever?
Yeah.
Did that get ejected into space, or did they just eject part of it? Is
I
it, like,
don't
still on the
answer
ship
that
at this
question.
point?
That's an interesting. I think they probably ejected the entire thing because they've already got their sample now with Tilly earlier, which almost ended up killing her.
Right.
But yeah, so that's what I was thinking, is that yes, they do have their sample, so they were able to eject the entire thing.
Okay. All right.
At least that's my take. I'm not saying that's right. That's the way I interpreted it.
So we're still. I just don't understand. I guess I just kind of fall asleep when they go into this explanation of what that asteroid is. I know she's trying to find an interface for the spore drive. I just. We know that unless they're just going to totally go off the rails, we know the spore drive can't continue beyond this series because it destroys all the rest of Star Trek. Kind of like making, hyperspace a weapon. But we won't go there. So, let's talk about speculation for a second. Have you any speculation occurred to you about where the story is going, or what the mystery of the Red Angel is supposed to be, or who it could be, or what's going on there?
I'm not sure what it could be. No, I really don't. Honestly, I don't. For me, I haven't seen enough.
It's too early.
For me, it's too early. Yeah, to have a real working idea of where that storyline's going. I mean, I know where the storyline's going. It's going to be the motivating factor for the entire season. Every episode and a half or so, every couple episodes they're going to get, because there's 7 of them, correct?
7 spots, 7 bursts, or whatever.
7 bursts, yeah.
I believe so.
And they're 14 episodes, so do the math.
They're gonna
Like every
one
couple
every
episodes,
2
they'll be able
episodes.
to go and find out where this thing's taking them. And I'm assuming that they'll tie it all together. But for me, it's too soon. Do you have a take on that?
Not really, because I don't understand it. As soon as Spock shows up and explains to us what's going on, Spock was always the exposition machine on Star Trek.
Right.
He would make these huge leaps of logic and just explain the whole plot of the episode to you. Fascinating, Captain. It seems this culture is blah, 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 blah. And he was always right.
Yeah.
He would just jump to these conclusions, But it was logic, so he's right. But so I assume when Spock shows up, he's going to tell us why he's so weirded out, why he's doing all this, and it's going to start to link these things together. So far, all we know... What did they do at the first place? They rescued some people, and the second place they rescued people again. So this seems to be for the benefit of humanity.
Right.
It also seems to involve foreknowledge, which could, again, to me, spells out time travel. And my speculation would be that this is linked to the spore drive because we have to get rid of the spore drive at some point. And this mycelial network. So I think this Red Angel is an evolution of the spore drive, or the whatever mycelial network, whatever they call it.
Mycelial.
Combined with this dark matter, I think a character is going to take the place of Stamets. It's either Stamets or someone else is going to merge with that mycelial network, and it has a link to Spock. All signs point to Burnham to me. Doesn't mean she'll be permanently written off as this Red Angel. It means she could just go into a continuum where she goes and does these missions as the Red Angel and then comes back. It doesn't even have to take any time away, because it could defy dimensions and time and space and all that. It could be something she does as a future self. It could be... But this show is just too Burnham-centric. There's a mystery. The Angel is a woman, I believe. I would otherwise say it was Stamets. His husband's going to lead him on this journey through the network but I just don't think they'll assign that importance to that character. I think the Red Angel has to be one of the most important characters, and it has to be linked to Spock. So, and we can't make that Spock That'd just be too much for that
That
character.
would be, yeah. Exactly.
So I think it's Burnham. I think the big mystery is going to be it's Burnham. Also, Pike's involved here, and it's possible it could be Pike, but I just doubt it. I think it's a woman, and I think this show is going to be, it'd just be it'd be too not predictable for them to let it be someone else. So I think it's going to be Burnham.
Yeah, no, it makes sense though. No, I can see them doing, making it be Burnham.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be linked to. I think Spock thinks something's trying to. From the previews we've seen, he says some force is trying to destroy all life. Well, it doesn't seem like it's this Red Angel though.
Oh, it's definitely not. No, definitely don't think it's the Red Angel. They're obviously trying to get them in the right place at the right time to save people.
Right. But all life goes back to this spore drive in mycelial network again, where it's linking all life together. This is the link to how I think it's going to be done. So I think the villain and the hero forces are going to be coming from that area, and that's how we'll explain getting rid of the spore drive. I think if they go that far and get rid of it, which I think they should. The longer it exists, the more of a. I mean, it was a cool idea, but it's kind of run its course. And what are you going to do with it at this point? You're going to explore the whole Delta Quadrant and therefore make Deep Space Nine and Voyager and all that pointless.
Yeah, exactly.
We've already got humans going further than they've ever been documented going, which is we can't take all the firsts away from all the other Star Treks. I guess you can.
Exactly.
If they don't care, but I wouldn't do it.
No.
But that's my speculation. Is just it's very, very basic. I really don't understand the plot at this point. It's the most basic bare bones of a. They could really throw in as many filler episodes as they wanted because there doesn't seem to be any pressing, clock for them to be on to solve this. I think once Spock appears, we're going to get a much bigger explanation, and I don't know how much it's going to link the side characters like the Federation Klingon guy. What's his name? I keep just calling him the hybrid.
Ash.
Ash. Okay, is that his name? Ash. All right. Ash versus the Evil Dead. Maybe I don't know how much it's going to link in these characters, or if they're just going to be there for support and for characterization for Burnham and stuff like that. But I hope they're actually important. They work them into this plot somehow, and they're actually important. The easy way to do it would be to make these bursts link the Klingons and the homeworld of the Commander Saru, and the place where Georgiou is, or whatever. This is your device to link everything together, but I don't know how much of that they're going to actually, do.
Explore. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, again, for me, it's just too early in the season to really, figure out exactly where I think they're going to go with this. I do agree with what you said though about I think once Spock does make an appearance on the show, we're going to have a more meaning, and I think B, he's going to somehow, some knowledge that maybe he has is going to suddenly dial up the tension to the point that okay, this has to be done, but it has to be done in X amount of time.
Right.
Because like you said, right now it's just kind of like it's just another thing to do. Oh, let's go. Oh, here's a red burst. Let's go see what's going on. And there doesn't seem to be any real sense of urgency about anything.
Right. And obviously there's a connection between these bursts and Spock because he's had visions of them. They compared the drawings from when he was a kid to what they're seeing now, and they're almost precisely the same. So there's a mind meld involved in here somewhere, or future selves, or I don't know. But they'll come up with some mutation of things we already know about and change the rules a little bit. But this dark matter stuff is kind of like the ultimate plot device. They could assign whatever they want to it in nature.
Yeah, of course.
That could be what this why she was seeing visions of her dead friend was. This dark matter could have a consciousness to it. And this is how it's communicating with them. The longer it's on the ship, the more people it's going to affect and manifest and give them messages and stuff. I don't know, but it's just all a guess. But as long as they keep the episodes interesting, like this last one was to me, and I really I hate to put all this emphasis on Pike, but what you said rings true to me. You said that you want to see what happens next as long as Pike is there, and you don't know how invested you would be if his character was not there. And I kind of feel the same way.
Okay.
because I feel like I'm looking at a Starfleet officer for the first time since Georgiou got offed in the first, in the movie or whatever. She seemed like a Starfleet officer to me as well.
Okay.
And Pike just seems like, I mean, they just did such a phenomenal job casting him, where he physically and all the lines they've written for him, he really seems to manifest this crux of past Starfleet, now Starfleet, and future Starfleet captains and characters. And I just hope they keep him a good guy, and they don't spoil it by over too much intrigue, and trying to pull more stunts.
I think they will. I mean, they're not. I don't think they're going to mess with canon so bad that they're suddenly going to make him not a good character, not a good guy.
Well, it could be an imposter or something. You know what I mean? I mean, they can write themselves out of anything they choose.
Yeah, they can, but that would be going back to the same trope they used last season.
It would,
yeah. About the whole thing about is Captain Lorca, the Mirror Universe Lorca? Is he the regular? That's been done, and it was done well, but they don't want to go back and do that same thing again.
And I'm loving the fact that we have a guy who is reminding us what Starfleet stands for, and is a hero. And I'm tired of the heroes being destroyed in all this media. I want to see some heroes. I was all for anti-heroes when it was a rare thing. When The Sopranos came out, it was brilliant watching a show about anti-heroes every week and compelling. But it's been done to death. I mean, can we believe that there's people capable of heroism and
being good,
who can maintain our interest? They don't have to be corrupt and dark and evil. I like this character just the way he is so far.
Absolutely.
All right, is there more we want to talk about on this episode?
I'm trying to think if there's anything really more. I think we pretty much talked it all. What? Any final thoughts on it?
I loved it. So I'm not going to just pick it apart to death, but I'm still concerned about the same things I've always been concerned of with the show, which is the lack of investment with most of the characters, and not really understanding of what they're doing, what they stand for. Pike is such a welcome addition because he's reminding us in more than just a speech, what they actually are supposed to be standing for, and bringing some identity and some Star Trek flair to this. But I want to see the other characters explored, and I hope they do that. I hope it's not just. I can really give these main characters a rest, for a while, and give us something to show why these other people are there, and that they can be interested in stuff. That's my main thing. I'm tired of the Burnham show. I mean, I like Michael Burnham as a character, okay, but they just made her too important to every single story, and you just an ensemble cast, you really shouldn't do that.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, completely agree. And I would like to see him explore a little bit more, like you said, of the other crew members, some of the other members of the bridge. The new medical officer, I think she seems pretty interesting. So yeah, I would definitely like to see it go that route, and hopefully it will.
Yeah, you need some more points of interest besides just your main characters. You really, I don't know. It's just on a TV show, you really don't have many excuses. You have so much time that you could be putting into these others. And if you let one character just eat the show, one or two characters eat the show, you do everything that you can think of with those characters, and it just becomes silly. It's they've already done everything, and we need a bunch of heroes and protagonists, not just one or two.
Right.
So that's my main thing. Is I hope if they start doing that, I'll be a lot more on board, and I hope they maintain the integrity of Starfleet, and through this character of Pike and through the other characters, and we see more. Conflict and resolution based upon the principles of Starfleet and what we're supposed to be getting towards.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think that for me, again, it boils down to the essence of Star Trek right now is being preserved by the character of Christopher Pike. And like you said, I would be worried if he weren't there right now. As to what obviously they would fill that void with something, because they have to have a captain, on Star Trek per se. But Yeah, I would be worried, honestly, because like you said, he's the one that's constantly reminding us what Starfleet is about, what they stand for. Yeah, I know they give Burnham lines like that too, but I think that he really embodies it.
And
Uh,
we haven't seen him conflicted by it like we have Burnham.
Correct.
Burnham is
Correct.
willing to use any methods, no matter her talk. When it comes down to it, she's willing to use almost any methods to accomplish what she sees as justifiable goal. Pike is not. We
Right.
haven't seen him corrupted in that way yet. So his point of view seems pure so far,
Right.
and I hope they keep it that way. That's the trouble when you have a main character doing too much, because you have to compromise their integrity to keep them involved in every story. There has to be
Right.
places these characters won't go. There have to be lines that they won't cross,
They won't cross.
so we
Yeah.
understand who they are. And with Burnham, they've pretty much let her destroy any line she comes up against at any given time that's convenient for her. So,
Right.
so I don't trust her when she talks about moral stances or the rules or anything. But Pike, we don't know anything else about him. All we know is that he seems very trustworthy. So I really hope they keep it that way. And,
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so too. I think they will, but that may just be my hope talking. Um, hopefully they won't. Yeah, go some route like you said. Like maybe it turns out he's an imposter and he does something despicable. I would be extremely angry if they go that route.
another situation where Burnham has to go against him, and take over
Right.
to do the right thing. He's in the wrong.
Right.
I'd like to see the team more pulled together against an outside force, but with the history of the show and everything, and we'll just see. But
Yeah.
I don't.
Absolutely.
I think this will be very Burnham centric, but it just depends. I don't know how this works. I imagine all these episodes are complete already, but I don't know that for a fact. So I don't
Yeah,
think-
I'm not sure. I'm not
I
sure
don't think
exactly
they
what
could-
their shooting
I
schedule
don't think they could
is.
change much even if they wanted to, but I imagine if they're listening to their audience, I can't imagine we're the only ones that like Pike. So
Oh, certainly not. No, I'm sure he's yeah.
yeah. So
I would-
hopefully they're in a position where they can make changes. If they did something, some kind of fatal misstep with him, where they can fix it still. But we'll see.
Yeah, my guess is they're probably still working on the last couple of episodes as we speak. I doubt I would seriously doubt that they have everything in the can before it even premiered. You know what I mean? I have a feeling they're probably still working on the last maybe 2 to 3 episodes, principal photography, and obviously the post production that is
Stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, stuff like that exactly. So I'm assuming they're not completely done at this point. So.
It really comes down to your confidence in their ability to write an arc over 12 or 13 episodes. And
Right.
I'll be happy if the journey is decent. The conclusion, I just hope it doesn't disappoint with some kind of over-the-top twists and revelations that are just dumb or that violate the characters we have set up. But I don't expect a miracle. It's been so long since anyone's delivered a complete story that the payoff was the biggest part of it. Usually it's the journey. And you have to, ever since Lost, and I mean, you could go on and on and on about shows that have ended on a weak note after setting up what you thought was going to be an incredible payoff. So it's hard to believe that. I almost feel like people should write the end first, and then go
Right.
back and get us there. Make the ending brilliant first, but usually it's the journey that's better. So as long as the journey's okay, it's an episodal TV show. It doesn't have to have a thrilling climax necessarily. We've
True.
built up to that in recent years with shows, but it used to be that you just had the season ended sometimes. Sometimes they did have a finale episode that was a little more tension, a little more on the line, or even carried over to the next year. But
Yeah.
it wasn't built like it is now, where you're building up the stakes. Like if they reveal this Red Angel thing in it and it's a total dud, it ruins the whole season. Whereas if
Oh,
you
yeah.
if you make an episode TV show and you make a arc at the end that spans 3 episodes, the rest of the season is still intact if that falls on its face.
Agreed.
So we're in a different realm now where you have to go back and judge the whole show because they're setting it up that way.
Right.
But I choose to just look at it episode to episode and enjoy it for what it is, and I super enjoyed this one for whatever reason. Like I said, the church symbolism was beautiful to me.
Yeah.
It's been done. I'm not going to give them credit for inventing that ever. I've been racking my brain trying to think of specific examples, and I'm sure I could. But it was a very nice Star Trek type message that I did not feel manipulated or hit over the head with it. It was it was just a beautiful image, you know, and characters were allowed different points of view, and it was okay. They weren't just preached at, you know.
Agreed. And you know, one of the thing that we haven't mentioned that I something you just said kind of reminded me of that. One thing I did like is that the writers didn't fall into the traditional trope of, you know, the I forget what they even referred to. The lady that when they meet Jacob for the first time, they tell, "Oh, we're not from here. We're from the north." "Oh, well, our woman wants to talk to you." I forget what they had a phrase that they described her, and when they took her there, they immediately accepted them. You know, the old trope was like they're immediately untrustworthy. You know, "Oh, we don't trust you. You're outsiders. You need to go." Or they try and kill them, or they incarcerate them. It was actually more of just okay, you're people from the outside. We welcome you in. Yeah, exactly.
You are not just the body.
that to me stuck out as being a little bit different than the cliche that tends to happen on those.
I was very happy
episodes.
about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because the easy thing these days is to portray people with strong religious beliefs as fanatics and dangerous.
Well, that's very much a Hollywood. That's very much a Hollywood thing.
And,
yeah.
You know, they can't they can't accept anything different and apply their philosophy to a changing world. You know, which is completely wrong to reality. Yeah. And so you see these people who were willing to at least think about the fact that they were wrong and that, you know, they weren't, you know, screaming heresy and trying to burn people at the stake and stuff. Which
exactly.
Yeah, where most
they could have easily done.
I think that's one reason I liked it so much, is they didn't distract us with some crazy over-the-top performance from a villainous, you know, villain of the week who's a preacher or whatever, you know, Bible-thumping lunatic.
Yeah.
Or whatever they had. They had a Boran. They had a Grand Bible Talmud.
Yeah.
Boranmud. Whatever their script was. Their holy script. But
exactly.
But yeah, the idea that technology and religion can work hand in hand and bring hope to people, it was a nice message, I think, that I took away from it.
Yeah,
and it's been a long time since Discovery never gave me that feeling like it did with that episode, where it was like, wow, they actually delivered a hopeful message. You know, it was before it was more about I was trying to figure out what was going on and what characters I liked and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So felt very Star Trek to me, which was a very welcome feeling.
No, it did. It definitely, I'll definitely say that. It definitely felt Star Trek to me. Like I said, I'm not going to mention the couple of little issues I had with it because I'm literally forgetting them right now, so they must not have been too important. But I did note the first time through when I watched it that I was like, wait a minute, it just seemed like a couple of cheats by the writers. But I just, if I remember them, I'll mention them next time. But I for some reason they escape me right now.
Yeah, there's always plot holes. There's always contradictions, and like I said, the very first thing that jumped out at me was the subplot and the main plot contradicted each other in the same episode. So not perfect by any means, but. What are you gonna do?
No,
I'm forgiving of those kind of things, you know, to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, anything else to wrap up this episode?
No, like I said, let's develop the other characters. I will say, I was a downer last time, saying my expectations for the show and my enthusiasm for the show were at an all-time low. I think I'm back after this episode.
Okay.
I got a real thrill out of this season on Discovery, that bit they showed. I really wanted to see what happened next. A complete turnaround for me. So I'm on board.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty much even keel so far between the first two episodes. I did like them both. They definitely have a few issues, but I think the good outweighs the bad, and I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of the season.
Cool deal.
Yep. All right, well, that's a wrap for episode 2 of season 2 of Discovery here on the Outer Rim. We will see you next time when we discuss episode 3.
Later.
Bye, guys.
We all know around here, the solo always does shots first. Singing yup no,
Yup, yup.
you're singing yup no,
Chucha.
yup no,
No.
at the Cantina Club.
No.